Shalom. Megillat Ruth is a wonderful book, rather undramatic, but a wonderful book nonetheless. A book about lots of nice people doing lots of nice things for each other. And yet, it has a rather dramatic ending. Megillat Ruth ends with the birth of David, with the birth of the Davidic dynasty. How does this book take us to kingship? The answer, according to Chazal, is Gemilut Chasadim, the doing of kindness. And yet, Megillat Ruth is a book of a very particular kind of kindness, specifically with respect to Ruth. Ruth does the kind of kindness that actually is somewhat self-effacing, even one would say self-nullifying. Everything she does for the other. She's willing to leave behind all possibility of a future, of husband, of children, to accompany her destitute and rather miserable mother-in-law back to Beit Lechem. Later in the story, she goes out to pick for Naomi food for herself and for Naomi, like a pauper in the fields, something that she probably has never experienced before. In the third chapter, when Naomi asks Ruth to go down to the Goren, to the threshing floor, and to encounter Boaz in a rather difficult situation in the middle of the night, she readily, if perhaps unenthusiastically, agrees. And finally, once Ruth has her child, she gives the child over to Naomi, and Naomi takes the child to her bosom and raises the child. What can account for this type of Gemilut Chasadim? What is the idea of this kind of kindness? This is not necessarily a kindness that I expect, not from our children, not from our students. How can we hold Ruth up as a role model for others if in fact she's doing the type of kindness that is so self-effacing? Indeed, I don't think that we're meant to learn to be like Ruth in the sense that she does the kindness that really nullifies and dissolves her own needs. And yet, this is the kind of kindness that we expect and we need from kingship. A king has the possibility of becoming tyrannical, of becoming corrupt, of using all of his own resources in order to push forth his own agenda, in order to fulfill his own needs. It is only the king who doesn't regard himself, but only regards the other, that can keep himself from becoming corrupt and tyrannical, and from using the resources at his disposal, in order to further his own interests. A king who imitates Ruth, who sees Ruth as the mother of his dynasty and as the role model for kingship, is the king who first and foremost sees the needs of the nation, who first and foremost sees the other, who takes himself out of the picture in order to use all of the resources for the good of the nation. That is the idea of the way in which Gemilut Chasadim, the particular kindness of Ruth, leads to Malchut, leads to kingship. To further this idea and some other ideas, I'll let you know about my new book on Megillat Ruth, Ruth from Alienation to Monarchy.